Erica and Sharon are sisters who began their grief journey in 2006 when Erica's 10-year-old son Austin drowned. Together, they participated in a grief education program, were so moved by this experience, they studied and became specialists so they could help the brokenhearted find recovery. In 2015, tragedy struck their family once again when Erica's oldest son Donovan was killed in a motorcycle accident. Erica and Sharon are committed to sharing their experiences of love, loss, and healing through this podcast. Now your grief specialists, Sharon and Erica.
How often should you visit the gravesite? Is really a question I think a lot of grievers come upon when they first encounter their loss, and this is after the funeral time. And we also know that different cultures tend to do it differently. Yeah. Different cultures tend to approach going to the gravesite differently. And what if you never go? What if that's all you want to do is go? There's so many dynamics to this topic that Erica and I are going to break in today. What is your number one tip about that, Erica?
It's just like grief is unique and individual. Your decision on visiting the gravesite is unique and individual. And the fact that you're right, there are so many cultural norms that are required of someone, especially for us, religious, beliefs.
Right.
I was getting a lot of, initially, I put a lot of pressure on myself. So I want to clarify, Austin is actually buried in a cemetery, but Donovan is cremated and he's here with me. So it was actually, I have both situations. But when Austin first died, I felt like I had to go every single day. He was my baby and I didn't want him to be alone. And I felt the need. Now doing that wrecked me every single day. Some days I couldn't make it to work. I'd have to go home and call my supervisor. It happened so many times I'd be crying and I'm like, I can't come in. I tried at lunchtime. Then I'd break down at lunchtime and go home. It didn't matter the time of day. It was breaking me down and I wasn't able to function as a result of making myself go there every day.
Right. And sometimes there's this overwhelming feeling of this is the only place that they are. That right. I have to go here because this is where they are. And then there's this other feeling we get a lot of women share this with us, is that I have to take care of this spot for them. I have to make sure it's clean. I have to make sure it's taken care of. I need to make sure that everything is perfect right here because this is part of my responsibility to them.
Right. And Lewis, in our own household, we had two different beliefs because that was me wanting to go there, make sure that the stone was clean and he had fresh flowers and I would bring a little present. Lewis, after the funeral, never stepped foot back in that cemetery, not one day, because in his mindset, he said, my son's not there. Yeah. That's just where his body is. My son is in heaven and he's with me wherever I am. So we differed on our points of the need to visit or not visit.
And let me just clear this up. Both of those were okay.
Yeah,
completely. Both of those responses to the cemetery are okay. Completely. Sometimes we get guilted into going to the cemetery.
Yes, we just finished doing a show and I brought up a point that just by accident, I happened to allow Lewis to not challenge him, not allow. I didn't challenge him on his mindset. And I'm so glad that happened and I did that because that's what causes a lot of conflict on top of the grieving. If you're trying to force someone to do it the way you're doing it, well, we know that doesn't work. So both of those are completely okay. And I didn't guilt him or force him or try to be like, how can you feel that way? This is our baby. I said, okay, well, I'm still going to go. And I did. Yeah. Now I went for only, I think the first year. And then it became harder and harder because I was breaking down every time. And I go to at Christmas and see all the Christmas decorations.
Yeah.
And I'd see, and then you're just reminded, I don't have my baby for Christmas. Yeah. I would be buying him Christmas presents and I'm not. I would be, going to the Christmas show at the school, and I'm not. So I actually had to take a step back, and in order, I couldn't do both. I couldn't go sit at the gravesite and bring the gifts and then come home and do Christmas with my family, because what I would do is just go right back into bed and pull the covers over my head and just say, I'm canceling Christmas. So I had to make a choice. Either I go to the gravesite and cry my heart and then come home and I'm useless, or I get through the sadness in the house with Donovan and Lewis and Jordan and try to figure this out with us. And so I started doing that more. And then I got an angry phone call from our father because Austin's was one of the few graves that wasn't decorated for Christmas. And how dare I, as his mother, he was demanding I get over there and decorate his gravesite. And I called you crying in tears.
And actually, he called me crying in tears first, and then he called you, I think, after he got himself together. But that was the first year, and we weren't expecting that. We didn't know that that's what was going to happen, right? We didn't know that they were going to decorate, which is a cultural thing, right? We didn't know they were going to have 6-foot tall Christmas trees on the. We were not expecting it. It was our first year, and he had just died in June, and that was the first Christmas. So that was part of the cultural thing that had happened there, for sure. And I lost my track, my thought that I was going to have. You guys, it's 7 a.m. for me here, so I don't have it all together yet. So, okay, so this is what I was thinking. Two things. One day when Daddy and I were going to the gravesite to visit Austin, we were driving through. It was a holiday time. It was 2 or 3 years after Austin had died, and I was saying to him, we were in the car together, and I said, he wanted me to take him to the gravesite, so I was going to the gravesite, and so I looked at him and I said, really sarcastically, dude, if you think that I'm going to be doing this perpetual care for you when you die and coming here, putting these flowers on the gravesite every week, you're crazy. I'm going to pay the funeral home to do it. So he looked at me. Our dad was so funny. He was like, you're going to pay the funeral home? He's like, don't you dare do that. Give me that money now, because I could spend it now. Why would you waste all that money? And we both burst out laughing. And it was really funny. It was a funny time for the two of us. But it also let me know, and then he and I went into a conversation that he didn't think for him that was important. Right. For him, he didn't need us to come. Our love was enough for him. He didn't need us to come to the gravesite and visit it often and yearly and weekly and all of that. And I often in the family, I'll say, well, my daddy released me of doing the perpetual care, even though we still do it, because I don't know if we've ever shared this with our friends before, but our dad and Austin are in the same grave site. Yeah. They're both, we put our dad in the site with Austin, which was his choice. That's where he wanted to go, which is awesome for us. We think it's so cool. So culturally, on November 1st is All Saints Day. And so it is cultural for us to go and visit the gravesite. Out of all the days in the year, you cannot miss that day. Thank you, Mom. And so no matter where my mother is, she is touching all the graves of everyone she knows. As a matter of fact, we just went and did Daddy and Austin's grave, and then she pointed out like 5 other graves that she wanted to do, but it was so crowded and so packed in there. Thank God she didn't make me visit all the graves of everyone she ever knew. But anyway, we put our flowers as we normally do, and this is what I'm getting to in this long story I'm trying to tell you. I bought a tractor for Austin. And when I bought the tractor, I came out of the store, I had the flowers in the tractor, and she took the tractor and she goes, well, is he still 10? And we both looked at the tractor because we bring something. This is tradition for us. We bring the flowers. I always bring a toy for Austin, right? I know some other great kid is ending up with that toy because probably some of the funeral home gardeners pick it up and go. And we both just stared at the tractor, and I looked at her and I said, well, no, he's not 10. He's had other birthdays, but to me, he will always be 10. So I don't know, is where my heart went. And that's okay, right? That's what I'm getting to, is that's okay. For me, he will always be that 10-year-old little boy. We could approach it differently, but,
Yeah, and I think like you said, for me, he's 24 because we have celebrated every birthday.
Yeah.
So for
Yeah.
me, in my mind, I imagine him in heaven as a young man. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it depends on, it's just to each his own, however you view it.
Grief is
But
unique and individual.
yeah, absolutely. That's what I would do. I would bring the toy, and then that first year I did buy him a Christmas. I would have bought him some sort of car because Austin was a future auto mechanic. He was going to be one of these guys like Gas Monkey. If you're familiar with any of these car shows, he was going to be one of those guys had he lived. So I would always bring a car, but they pick it up on Thursday. So no matter when you drop it off,
Yeah.
if you go back on a Thursday. So having that experience, I honestly, looking back, I hope that they take those toys and give them or donate or whatever, or take them home to their own kids. So
Yeah.
some kid. I hope they're not just ending up in a box somewhere in someone's
Yeah.
closet, storage, whatever. But I after seeing so many just get picked up and not knowing where they ended up, I decided I would rather take those and donate them, like Toys for Tots, or do something. You have to do what feels right in your heart. If putting it there and leaving it and letting it go to tractor heaven is is your thing, then that's good. But if you feel like you really want to make sure it gets in the hands of a kid, take it to a Toys for Tots bin or a shelter or something
Exactly.
like that. So
Exactly. But I need you to honestly answer this question.
mhm.
Okay. All right. Truthfully, Daddy and Austin was playing with that tractor.
Oh my gosh, they were looking at all the features. So, because we also need to add in, my dad and Austin were best friends. They were
Yeah.
BFFs. So whatever Austin got, my dad relished in, and they got to check out all the features of whatever new car or toy he had. So
Yeah. So I'm
they
not
for
actually sure who I brought the tractor for. I'll have to tell your mom that. Okay. You brought up a really good point. I want to add this in there for our friends. Number one, you need to pay attention to the rules of the cemetery,
Yeah.
whatever their rules are, because they open on time and they close on time. And they typically have a certain day for cleaning. I know that's how it is here in California. I'm not sure how it is in other states, but here they clean up on Thursday. So if you bring something on Friday, it will stay the entire week. Equally,
Mhm.
if you do Saturday, Sunday, Monday, it will stay the entire week. You need to be careful with driving into the cemeteries because typically they are going to have one way in and one way out. So you need to be careful of that. You especially need to be careful of driving around the cemeteries when it's a big holiday, because sometimes people are at the gravesite, but they're actually celebrating. They're celebrating their loved one. So they have all their children. I've seen people with ice chests, with chairs, with umbrellas, with blankets. They're going there. They're having a picnic with their loved one. It may not be the thing that you choose to do. Erica and I have never had a picnic at the gravesite. It may not be the thing that you choose to do. So don't judge them, but be okay with that and know that there will be little small children running around.
Also, I hate to bring this up again because I am a constant forgetter. Is this even true in COVID time? Are you guys able to go in?
Yes, because it's outdoors.
Because at one point they had them closed, and they
Yes, they
certain
did.
areas
Mhm.
they weren't letting anyone in. So
were
now,
not.
do they limit the number of people?
They didn't on Saturday.
Okay, okay.
When we
So
were there,
just
I'm sorry,
also
actually, we went Sunday. On Sunday, they didn't.
also call ahead because we don't know in your area with the pandemic, especially if you just want to call ahead and make sure that it's going to be standard operating procedures, just so you don't make a drive if it's far, especially for Christmas. They do allow you to decorate, I believe, on the beginning 1st of December, may even be the end of November, and they do keep those things up the entire month.
That is customary in California.
Yeah,
as well,
in
definitely.
California.
And I would think that in other states, because of weather, that may not be the case. I know for a
Correct.
fact, like in Canada, because of the snow in some areas, the snow is so deep. If your loved one dies in January, February, March, and April, they don't even have the funeral until the snow has melted because they can't really literally get to the gravesite. So think about that. That's someone who cannot actually visit the gravesite.
Right.
And in that instance, we strongly recommend that you make a little area in your home, not necessarily a big giant shrine, but you might want to pick a rock or a photo or light a candle in a certain area. Like you just have that certain area that you know is for your loved one. We have a lot of grievers that do that.
Yeah. And for the instances where you have a loved one that was cremated. So like I said, Donovan is here with me. He's got an area and I look, sometimes talk to him. He's here. So, and actually I have some of my dad's ashes too. So he's with both of his grandchildren now that I think about
Oh,
it.
yeah, look
There's
at that.
Austin, and then I put him in the same box with Donovan. So he's with both of his boys.
Yeah.
And so that brings me, I will go over there sometimes and talk to them. And at Christmas, I'll put a little thing on their box. So it really just depends on where you're at and what you are okay with. Because, like I mentioned earlier, my dad was heartbroken going to the gravesite and seeing that Austin's grave was bare. It hurt him to look around and see all these beautifully decorated stones, and Austin didn't have anything. But for me, that Christmas, I had to make a choice. It was either go there and do that and call it a wrap for the rest of the day, the rest of the family, or be with the family and then not get there to do Austin. So I think you actually went there and put stuff down so
Yeah.
that our dad would feel better, and then you kind of let me off the hook. So it depends on where you're at. And because we have these cultural norms, these religious beliefs, that can put an extra added pressure on you, but you get the right to say, I can't.
Yes,
I just
absolutely.
can't do it. But
Yeah.
if you still want it done, reach out to someone who will do it for you. That's okay if you don't physically show up, but you make sure it's taken care of and you have someone, can you bring some stuff out there? I just can't do it. I'm not in the right headspace.
It's not uncommon for us to have family or friends that go to the gravesite, clean it up, leave some flowers, take a picture and send it to us. It
Yeah.
happens to us all the time. And that is so cool when that happens. Couple of tips. Be respectful of the other graves that are there. Don't trample all over the graves. Be respectful. That's someone's loved one. Be respectful of other mourners that may be in the area. This should be a quiet time with your loved one. Know that other people are there and they're having a grieving moment when they're there. So be respectful of them. Try to clean up after yourself. Don't just leave trash and all that. Clean it up. Just when we were there on Sunday, these two brothers, and I don't know who they were visiting, they had a bucket and a chair and they had an ice chest. They had tools. They had cleaning supplies. It was really cool. And I couldn't get the water thing open, the water vase open for Austin, and he actually helped me get it out of the ground. So that was kind of cool. So there are etiquette rules that we need to follow when we are at the gravesite.
One of the memories I have about being there with and interacting with other grievers. Do you remember the first Thanksgiving we went and we had served the food
Yeah.
I couldn't do a traditional Thanksgiving. So what we did was we went and did a day of service, which I thought was beautiful. And then we went to the gravesite. It was me, you, and Yolanda, our sister, and Donovan. And we were sobbing and holding each other and crying. And there were some other grievers nearby, and we don't know their loved one who they were visiting. They came over and they were hugging us, and we all were crying together. And it was a beautiful moment shared with strangers.
Yeah.
And just brought together by grief and pain.
Yeah.
And be open to that, because you don't know what your presence will mean to someone else.
Yeah.
I'm grateful for those women that gave us hugs and were holding our space. And I hope we gave them some comfort as well.
Yeah, that you never know what support you're going to get. You get some support when you're there for the grievers.
Yeah.
We have met people that have been coming there for years. And that's okay. Whatever decision you make is okay for you. And that is it. Don't let anyone talk you out of it. I'm going to leave on this note. I had a beautiful client who was Jewish, and their tradition is that they leave a rock or a stone every time they visit the gravesite. So she was so excited. She fell in love with Austin through me. And so she gave me some stones. So every time I would go, and it's actually at the floral shop right next door, they sell the stones there. And what it symbolizes is, hey, I was here. It just, you're just leaving a sign that I was here. I loved you. I remembered I was here. So it is quite often, every time I go, I make sure I have my rock with me. And it's a tradition that I learned from someone else that is not even something that we grew up with, but I'll bring a rock, a toy, and the flowers. So it's really cool.
That's beautiful. I love that.
Yeah, isn't that cool? It just shows that you were there. Yeah. It's really
That's
cool.
awesome.
All right, ladies, we are here for you, whatever you need. If you just want to talk about going to the gravesite, if you want to know gravesite etiquette, call us up. We'll walk you through it. We'll help you through it. If you're struggling with someone who never wants to go to the gravesite, we'll help you with that as well.
Absolutely. We have a little bit of experience in all areas. So please feel free to reach out to us. We're here for you.
Thank you.
Bye. Hi, friends. Erica Honore here with Healing Starts with the Heart. Sharon and I are so glad you joined us for another great episode of our podcast. We hope you enjoyed this episode. We want to let you know, for more information, you can go to our website at healingstartswiththeheart.com. There you will find not only today's podcast, but all of our podcasts, along with our blogs, the information on the programs that we offer, and the Griever's Guide, which is something Sharon and I put together to document how we came to be your grief specialists. We also have a quiz to take to identify if you are truly grieving. And if you want to talk specifically with either Sharon or myself, you can schedule an appointment there. You will also find a place to join our private Facebook group at Hope, Heal, and Recover. Thank you so much for being with us. Have a great day, friends.